Good.
Hello.
Good morning, Mikkel. How are you?
Morning. I'm good, and you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much for taking the time out to have this chat with me. I really appreciate
Yeah.
it. Yes.
Yeah, it's nice. Thanks for interviewing me. It's fun.
So just a couple of questions then. When did you sort of remove refined sugar from your diet, and how long have you sort of been eating just fruit and raw food for? How long?
Well, I guess about 4.5 years ago, about that time, I sort of started thinking more about. Well, actually, to take it back even further, about 5 years ago, before I even were sort of thinking about raw food, I started noticing that my digestion wasn't as good, and I thought, okay, maybe I'll reduce my amount of flour because I was eating a lot of pasta and a lot of pizza and that sort of thing. Still vegan, but I thought I'd reduce the refined products, including sugar as well, and oil. Oil is even worse than sugar, in my opinion. But they're both refined products and not really ideal. So yeah, I started reducing that, and eventually I just realized, why don't I just eat whole foods in general, just only whole foods, which would be raw fruits and vegetables, and that's probably 4.5 years ago now. Place to try and do a fruitarian diet. It's not so much good fruit there and stuff. So we thought, okay, we better start traveling. So we went to the Canary Islands. And from there on, we've just been traveling.
Okay,
But slow traveling.
so where you traveling to? Does that influence? So obviously, because of what you want to eat, that influences where you actually go on your travels. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, wow.
We travel for several reasons, but I think climate and fruit is the main reasons.
Wow, that's
So even
interesting.
specific fruits will be like, it's almost mango season in Thailand or durian season, so we'll go there, and then we'll go to Australia for the mango season there. I guess mangoes and durian are the two fruits that we most enjoy traveling specifically to specific places for. But
Wow.
it plays a big role, yeah.
Okay. And so what's your typical diet? So give me a typical day. So from breakfast to lunch to dinner, what do you sort of eat from day to day?
Yeah. Well, it's very atypical. It's not a very it changes all the time. So it'll be
Okay.
different at different times of the year, and it'll be different in different locations. For example, let's just say right now, I'm actually in Sydney, Australia, and I'm finding it hard to enjoy the fruit here very much because it's not really good quality what I'm able to find. I'm sure it's possible to find good stuff if you get more familiar with the place. But as far right now, we're not really able to source very much good fruit, so we're actually eating some cooked steamed sweet potatoes and pumpkins as well in the evening. Not entirely raw right now, which happens sometimes when we're also in Norway when it's difficult to find enough fruit. I'm not so keen on sort of forcing it if I'm not enjoying it. So I only eat only fruit if I can enjoy it, which most of the time happens when we're in the tropics, which is most of the time really. A typical day there, for example, in Thailand or anywhere tropical, would be maybe papayas for breakfast. I'll just sit down and eat as much papaya as I want until I'm satisfied. Probably 2-3 kilos of papaya.
Wow.
And then removing the seeds, obviously, and everything. So that leaves me with maybe 1.5 kilo of papaya that I eat. And then for lunch, maybe I'll have bananas. Depends on the size of the banana, but maybe anything from 7 to 15 bananas for lunch.
Okay.
And then for dinner, maybe I'll have mangoes. It could be 2.5 kilo, 3 kilos of mangoes, maybe even one avocado as well, maybe some tomatoes as well, something like that. That would be a typical diet, like a year-round diet. That's a typical diet.
Did it take your body a lot to adjust to sort of eating fruit all the time? Because I can imagine if I, for example, now and I went and ate fruit all day, every day for the next couple of days, I think I'd get a sore tummy. Did it take a while?
Well, no, I never had any. I think if the fruit is ripe and if the fruit is quality fruit, there's no issues in terms of digesting it. I noticed in from the get-go when I started that fruit was just so easy to digest. It just felt so good. There was no negative feeling. Like there was no bad feeling when I ate fruit. It was only a good feeling. But what did take me time though to adjust was to eat enough volume, because stomach is pretty small when we're used to eating concentrated foods, bread and processed sugar and processed flour. Like all these things are very dense in calories, so we usually eat very little of them, and our stomach is quite small. But then, as you get used to eating fruit, you need to sort of allow for a greater volume in your stomach to be able to accommodate a greater volume to get enough calories. And that took me probably a couple of months or something like that to learn and get used to eating larger amounts of food in one sitting. In terms of feeling good after the meal and digesting the fruit just felt great, as long as it was right. But of course that also took some time.
Yeah, to work out which ones are right, of course. So I've just started to sort of dehydrate some fruit recently. Do you dehydrate fruit at all? Would you eat dehydrated fruit? Yeah?
Yeah, sure. I mean, sometimes I do. Sometimes I buy, like right now as well, like I said, we're in Sydney and it's not the best here. So essentially we're eating bananas for breakfast, bananas for lunch, and then sweet potatoes for dinner. But during the day, I'll also have a bag of dates with me, just sort of to fill the corners, if you will.
Yeah.
And those are obviously not very fresh, but they're all right. Dried fruit, I find. I don't enjoy eating dried fruit as a full meal, but every now and then, in between meals, or just like just to top off the calories, that's pretty useful. And we have a dehydrator in Norway that we sometimes use. And yeah, we can dry bananas and that sort of thing. Especially if we're going out flying, we dry some bananas. We bring them on the flight. Really easy to bring with you.
Okay. And I just wanted to ask you about your YouTube channel. So it's very good, and I imagine you've got a lot of people. I can see there's a lot of comments and things like that. People are really sort of hooked on watching you sort of talk about everyday things like mainly food and travel and things like that. So do you have a lot of interaction with sort of the people that subscribe to your channel?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The YouTube channel, it's very much fun, and I do enjoy a lot of interacting. And I look at every comment that comes, but I'm not able to answer every comment, because just yesterday, for example, I went to the library here in Sydney and I was gonna answer some comments, and I probably sat there for about 3 hours answering 500 comments.
Wow.
But that was because I sort of hadn't answered comments in a week maybe. But that's pretty overwhelming. So it's like sometimes I'll have to be quick with the answers, and just sometimes I won't be able to answer as well. But I pretty much read all of them, and I do enjoy all the interactions. Very much fun.
Cool. I'm not going to keep you too much longer. Can I just ask one more question? So
yeah, I got time, by the way.
Oh, have you? That's fantastic. Because I'm not in a rush either. I've let everybody else go out this evening. I've stayed at home to speak to you. So to eat, do you think sugar is becoming an issue? It's in the headlines now. The big thing is sugar, sugar, sugar. Everyone's talking about it.
I think generally, we are frugivorous human beings. We are natural sweet-seeking animals. We are evolved to eat a diet of fruit predominantly, and so our want for sugar and our liking for sugar is a completely natural thing. Hence why we put sugar in everything, because we like it, obviously. We wouldn't put, we don't have a need to put, like calcium powder in everything because it's so good. We have a certain need for calcium in food, but the thing is, sugar is the immediate requirement of the body. It's true that we can live without sugar. Our body will sort of make sugar, whatever we got, and burn fat, etc. But ideally speaking, we want to get our preferred fuel source, which is sugar. And I think that the whole thing about sugar in the media and sugar is so bad, it's sort of blown out of proportion, like misinterpreted a little bit. Because the problem with refined sugar, in my opinion, and also according to the science, the problem with refined sugar is not that sugar in itself is bad. It's just that refined sugar, comes without associated nutrients. So it's coming without fiber, without water, without minerals, without vitamins. It's just empty calories, as they call it. Just you're eating, you're getting your fuel in the form of sugar, but you're not getting any of the associated nutrients, which also causes problems with blood sugar because it's going too quickly into the bloodstream and that sort of thing. But the big deal with blood sugar is really fat. You know, people are happy to pour oil on their salad, but they're really like, oh, don't touch the refined sugar. But oil is great because it's healthy fats. That's what people say. But that's kind of ridiculous because oil is the exact same thing. It's 100% fat. It lacks minerals, water, fiber, vitamins. There's a few vitamins in there, but not much. So again, and oil, fat, too much fat in the diet will actually impair your ability to process blood sugar. So a lot of times people, a lot of people think diabetes is caused by sugar because it's a sugar metabolism disorder where the body can't regulate the sugar. But the question is, why can't the body regulate the sugar? And that's because of the fat. So if I guess the bottom line is that refined products are not good. We should be eating whole foods. And if we're eating refined sugar or refined oil, being refined fat, both those things are deficient products that will give us empty calories, and that makes us deficient. So it's better to eat whole foods. And in terms of sugar, why is sugar? I don't think it's like, oh, sugar is the reason why people are fat or the reason why people are unhealthy, or neither is oil the reason. The reason is very complex. There are many reasons, but in general, like diet-wise, I think it's general. Just people are not eating whole foods. They're not eating enough raw foods. They're eating too much fat. They're eating not enough sugar. Like, that's the main thing, really. I think the reason why people are craving sugar is because they're not eating enough sugar.
Natural sugar.
Natural sugar.
Yeah.
Yes, natural sugar, but there's no difference between the sugar in fruit and the sugar in refined sugar. It's the same sugar. The only difference, if we say natural sugar, would be that the sugar in fruit comes with nutrients.
Okay.
So it comes in the form of a whole food, whereas the sugar in a packet is just sugar. But sugar is sugar, and we have the need for sugar. And when people are not eating enough carbohydrates in the form of sweet, juicy fruit, or alternatively starch, which converts to sugar in the body, when they're not eating enough carbohydrates, they start craving sweets, and they think they're guilt. They think they're like, oh, I'm just greedy. I'm not. Oh, I have this sugar addiction. But the truth is, you're just not eating enough carbohydrates. So the solution, in my opinion, is just increasing the intake of carbohydrates, ideally through fruits, alternatively through starches like roots and grains even, but that's less ideal. But getting your carbohydrate intake to about 80% or more of your total caloric intake, that's when sugar cravings will go away. I mean, I never have sugar cravings except when I'm hungry. Like, when I'm hungry, I have sugar cravings and I eat lots of fruit, and then my sugar is like, oh no, I don't think about sugar.